Do you want to like sit like up there, and then you're gonna leave these people in? Do you want to go up front? What would you like to do? You can't. You're in the middle line. Okay. How about right here with a chair? Is this too close, or do you like it? You good? Okay. Do you want anything? You cold? Can you take that? That was fantastic in a purse. Just saying. Pardon? Yeah. Well, we have to sit right there. So, just tell me what you need to go. Oh, go ahead. Oh, except you want to take my place. So we can all sit right there. Okay? Coughing? Good. Good. Do you want to sit in? I'll go with you up on the middle. Right in there. Sit down. You have to put that in for you. Okay. 14 early 21 at like you're like old.
That's your wedding photo of the king right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Randy was your official king.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Randy.
Our company is now, we're now the in-house officials there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Beautiful
It would have been nice to get, it would have been nice to get married at the Laura Mill, but
Yeah.
it wasn't open in time, was it?
No. Well, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Marty Paginen, and I want to take this opportunity, obviously, to welcome everyone here today to this memorial service. As you know, we've gathered to pay tribute to Garry Pyke, to celebrate his life together, but also certainly to acknowledge his passing. I do want to welcome those who are obviously present in person here, and those that are going to be watching either live stream or a recording of this service at a later date. You know, when someone who is so close to us, so special to us, and so full of life passes away, it has an immediate impact on our lives. We encounter just a really broad range of emotions, some of which I think are new to us. We feel grief and sadness. We give ourselves permission to express those emotions through tears or through other expressions in our own unique ways. We speak words of meaning and comfort to each other, but honestly, sometimes we just stand or sit in silence because the words that we try to share with each other seem so inadequate to express the feelings that we have in our hearts. But in the middle of a time of grief like this, we gather together just like we're doing today. We celebrate a life. We pay tribute to a man who lived well. We commemorate a life, acknowledge its passing, and also identifying and are grateful for the many wonderful attributes that made Garry who he was. I think as we do these things for these few moments this afternoon, we'll honor Garry in all of his life. I'm convinced that everyone's life is a gift. Would you agree? Everyone's life is special. Everyone's life tells a story. And Garry's story began back on March the 7th, 1957, when he was born Garry Robert Pyke to Bob and Jean Pyke in Toronto, one of 4 boys. And growing up in the Jane and Finch area of Toronto, Garry attended high school, and I understand that's where he met a beautiful young lady named Kathy. And their friendship blossomed into love, and eventually, obviously, they were married. In time, Garry and Kathy were delighted to welcome their 2 sons into their home and into their family. In the late 1970s, they moved to Wellington County, first settling in Bellwood, and then finally ending up here in Fergus. Garry, I think, as we look at his life, would have had many things that were accomplishments and successes. Obviously, his family was number one. But in addition to that, it was his company, Absolute Masonry, which he started and ran for almost 4 decades. The company was truly a family business because obviously sons and nephews and other people were involved in the company, and Garry earned a well-deserved retirement about 5 years ago. Well, as a younger man, Garry enjoyed the Pyke family gatherings at camping trips at locations like McGregor Point. He was obviously a hockey and baseball dad to the sons here, and was someone who had numerous trips to practices and games and tournaments throughout his lifetime. Loved the NFL, liked to watch football, college football, the Maple Leafs, Blue Jays, the Argos. As you know, he was a very dedicated sports memorabilia collector, and being one myself, I can appreciate the time and the attention that's invested in that. And of course, I'm told that he would even, when he was in Dunedin, be very interested and very focused on getting autographs from some of the Blue Jays and other players. Well, Gary spent time gardening and tinkering around the home and his garage, and as you know, he was a founding member of the Lions Club in Bellwood. Well, how would you describe Gary as a person? Well, he was outgoing, he was friendly. Even before Facebook, he had a large social network, often smiling, and he was the first one to crack a joke, and I'm told he had a real heart of gold. Gary gave great attention to details, especially in his work, and he'll be remembered for his affection and being a big teddy bear and a gentle giant. Well, the story of Gary's life ended when he passed away with his family by his side at the Grand River Hospital in Kitchener on April the 18th of this year. Gary was 64 years of age. Predeceased by his mom Jean, his father-in-law Vincent, his nephew Matthew, sister-in-law Bonnie, survived by his dear wife Kathy, who had been married for 44 wonderful years. His sons Brian, along with Veronica and Dylan, along with Ashley, and little grandson Levi, who's here today as well. Also will be missed by his father Bob, his brothers Tim, along with Becky, Dan, and Rob, and his mother-in-law Teresa, along with Andre. Gary was brother-in-law to Tony, along with Janine, and to Donna, along with David, and there are many, many nieces and nephews that he'll be missed by. Family would like to express appreciation to all who have made a memorial donation in Gary's honor to the Heart and Stroke Foundation, the Center Wellington Minor Hockey, or to the Get in Touch for Hutch Foundation. Before Dylan comes to speak, I've been asked to read some words of tribute by the brothers, and it's my honor to do that. This first one from Tim Pyke and family. Gary was a big, strong teddy bear that loved life. He was kind and loving and patient and funny. He had a great smile and a way to make you feel good when you were around him. He loved music and nature and camping, playing golf, baseball, and hockey. He cheered loudly for the Blue Jays, the Maple Leafs, and the Cleveland Browns. He loved his extended family and enjoyed family gatherings where mom, dad, brothers and sisters-in-law, nieces and nephews would enjoy a meal in each other's company. The self-made wine was always a big hit. He loved a good house party and always found time to call our mother every day. He worked hard, running Absolute Masonry, and was always there to help family. 3 of our sons were lucky enough to work for their uncle. It allowed them to see a different side of him and provide them with a good summer income and a second language. The most precious thing that Gary taught us was true love and commitment. 26 years ago, when Kathy was challenged with emergency surgery, they both showed us true love and commitment to each other and their young family. They never complained. They just enjoyed their life to the fullest. Gary, we will miss you dearly. Your love of life, your family values, your sense of humor, and your positive outlook. Godspeed. Hug Mom and Matt for all of us. Much love, Tim, Becky, Curtis, Reed, Spencer, and Steph. And this note is from Dan Pyke. Gary was a very important person to me in the good parts of my being. I have more to say. It's sad that I didn't have the opportunity to tell him. I have so many great memories of his life, but the ones that made me cry and smile were in the early years. Gary, there's no one I admire and respect more than my big brother. There's no doubt we had our differences and butted heads on many occasions, but we always had each other's backs at the end. He had a happy marriage with a wonderful girl, Kathy, who needed extra care after an unfortunate surgery. He raised 2 very fine sons, Brian and Dylan, and owned and operated a successful masonry business. Because we were close in age, we were the best of friends for the longest time. We liked the same music, shared a lot of likes and dislikes other than the Cleveland Browns, and we liked the same team sports. While living in Toronto and before I had my driver's license, he would include me in a lot of things that I would have had a hard time doing without him, which included concerts. He liked all kinds of genres and took me with him to many concerts, including Pink Floyd, Johnny Winter, and yes, even Gordon Lightfoot. I'm glad the Wiggles weren't around. When we were kids, we gave him the nickname Chiquita because he bruised so easily like a banana. Pretty sure a few sneezes might have caused a bruise or two. I don't remember anything rattling him when he was younger. On his wedding day, Garry, one of his best friends, Peter Rakansky, and I were driving to the ceremony, and I was freaking out because we were running late. But it didn't even faze Garry. He just kept moving forward. He may have bruised easily, but that never deterred him from doing anything he wanted to do in life. He traveled out west at least 3 times, hitchhiking at least once. I still picture Mom crying when he left, not knowing when he'd return. Garry kept us on our toes like that. I don't know if there's anyone who met Garry who didn't like him. He was intelligent, kind, loving, and driven. Truth be told, he never quite managed to master texting or the cell phone. If he pocket dialed me once, he did it 20 times. And those who knew him knew he was an extremely early riser. I sometimes wondered if those early morning calls were really pocket dials or not. He enjoyed a good debate on Saturday afternoons while we'd enjoy maybe a few too many beers in his first apartment on Fofar. It was at his home where he invited a religious group who had knocked on his door to politely debate issues of ideology. And finally, some words from Rob. Garry, I have many memories of you and I getting together. I'd love to share a few of them. I remember at your wedding when I accidentally threw confetti down your throat. Is that true? You never let me forget that one. I remember you taking me to the Blue Jays games at the old exhibition stadium. One of those games, Carl Yastrzemski stole a base, and he also hit a home run. It was a very special day. I remember you always throwing me in the pool with all my clothes on. The time you shoved a marble up my nose, that hurt. I remember all those years that I worked for you, and you taught me a lot. Mostly, I remember how you were always there for me no matter what. You are an excellent brother and an even better friend. I will always miss you and think of you often. I know you're in heaven looking down. I will give you a wave now and again. I love you, Garry. I could always count on you to love me back. I will pray for you often. Farewell, my friend and my brother. P.S. Don't forget to cheer hard for the Leafs. With love, Rob Berto. Dylan, if you would, please.
Well, good afternoon for those of you who don't know me. I'm Dylan, Garry's youngest son. Yes, I'm Daddy. Kathy, Brian, Veronica, Ashley, Levi, and I would like to start by expressing our sincere gratitude to everyone who's joining us today. A virtual service is not our first choice, but under normal circumstances. But it will have to do until we can have a proper celebration of life at a later date. It is both tremendously painful and a great honor to be up here today. How do you sum up the life of the greatest man you've ever known, who has dedicated his entire life to caring for, being compassionate to, and looking after other people? To be honest, I'm not sure any combinations of words that I can come up here with today are worthy enough to describe the man my father was. He was a man who took pride in his family, in the business he built from nothing and ran successfully for many years, and the life he had made for his family. I have many fond memories of my father, both as a child and an adult. He was always there with a big smile and a big hug to cheer you up when you were down, and would also crack a joke or make a borderline inappropriate comment to try and get you to laugh. He was pretty good at inappropriate comments. He was always there to lend a hand when needed, or happy to lend you one of his many, many, many tools. or simply just to sit and listen to you vent when you needed someone to talk to. Dad never made a decision based on the easiest way out, but rather what he thought was morally right. He had a strong set of morals, and he never strayed from them, and he raised both of his children to do the same. Most everyone watching today will know what happened with my mother about 26 years ago. He didn't hesitate for a split second to stand by her and continued to love her and care for her for the rest of his life. To sum it up, if I had $1 every time someone told me how great of a man my dad was, or how lucky I was to have him as a father, I would have been a millionaire in my early 20s. Between running his masonry company, taking care of his beloved wife, 2 children, who were all, well, let's be honest, a bit of a handful at times, he still found time to get Brian and I to the rink, for hockey, or to the diamond for baseball, or whatever sport happened to be on the go that particular year. He even found time to coach us and be the medical trainer on many teams. He also managed to somehow find hobbies of his own. Along with playing rec league hockey, beer league baseball, and even running one of the teams and helping run a league, he also loved to collect everything sports. From trading cards to magazines, or even autographs, and to be honest, just about anything else you could name. Dad also loved his music. He amassed quite the collection of vinyl and CDs over the years, likely in the thousands. There was always a radio or CD player blasting wherever he was, and I can still remember as a child crawling through the attic to run speaker wire out the back so we could listen to CDs while we worked outside in the gardens. I was too young to notice back then, but looking back, I am completely amazed and absolutely exhausted thinking of all the things he took care of and how well he kept it all together. And I wish I could have told him that. I'm sorry we couldn't have seen and chatted with everyone out there watching today. But we will get a chance later this summer. We will have a celebration of life at a later date. But I do have one parting request. I'd like to ask everyone's help to honor my father today. When you see your loved ones today, give them a giant hug in honor of the best family man I have ever known. Dad will be missed by all of his loving family members, his wonderful neighbors, and to the many friends he made along his journey. Thank you all for watching. Rest in peace, Dad. You were a great husband, an even better father, and a loving, caring, proud grandfather. I love you.
Well, thank you, Dylan. That was just wonderful, and I'm sure everyone that's watching today would echo those sentiments as well. Just to conclude the service, I just want to share a couple thoughts around the word legacy, because a legacy, as you know, is a gift of money or property that is transferred by a will or bequest, or really it's anything that's handed down from the past. And I'm impressed that leaving a legacy is more about passing on values and passing on valuables. It's true, isn't it? The valuables someone leaves behind are important. We all understand that. But more so are the values a person has left. I heard a song on the radio a number of years ago. I was so impressed I went home, went online and found the words to the chorus specifically. The song is entitled A Good Man. It's written and sung by Emerson Drive, a Canadian country group. And the chorus says, I want to be the one when all is said and done who lived a good life, loved a good wife, and always helped someone in trouble. On the day they lay me down, I want everyone to gather round and say, he was a father, a brother, a neighbor, a friend. He was a good man. I love that song, don't you? Because it reminds me that there's something to be said for a man who does love his family, who cares for people, who understands that life can be difficult and tough, but we rise to the occasion and we take care of those that are closest to us, and that joy can be found in the deepest parts, but also the most common expressions and experiences of life. And I get the sense that these and many, many more are the values that Garry has passed on. I'm reminded that leaving a legacy is more about congruency than just conversation. That means that how you live and what you say sort of need to match together in order for your legacy to be effective. And my sense is that Garry was who he was. There was no pretense. What you saw is what you got, and wasn't someone into wearing masks or trying to be someone he wasn't. He was his own true self, and we celebrate that wonderful attribute about Garry today. And I'm finally also reminded that leaving a legacy is more about decades than just days. The character of a person is not revealed in just a few moments. Sometimes you may meet someone, you're impressed by how they look, how they present themselves, and you might think in the back of your mind, there's a person that has all the parts of their life together, there's no way they could understand the challenges I face. But that's not true, is it? Because we don't know their backstory. We don't know the struggles that have taken place in their life for them to get them to this point. I think leaving a legacy is about facing life with realism and faith and moving forward. I think it's about being grateful for every day. It's about loving people and using things, and not the other way around. It's acknowledging our own shortcomings and yet having the grace and maturity to forgive others. And all of this takes time. And so a legacy left behind is best because it's passing on valuables. It's values more than valuables. It's more about congruency than just conversation. And it's more about decades of life than just a few days. And today we celebrate and honor Garry. Our hearts are filled with pain, though, as we say goodbye. Someone once told me, the depth of the pain that you feel in your heart is always in proportion to the depth of the love and friendship you shared with that person. I love that because it's so true, isn't it? It doesn't take the pain away, but it reminds us of how it's there. Because those in this room and others who are watching today or at a later date, those that are feeling pain, may I just remind you that that's an evidence or an expression of the love and friendship that was shared with Garry. I want to encourage you to take that with you as you move forward and allow that just to be a help to you. Not how did he die, but how did he live? Not what did he gain, but what did he give? These are the units to measure the worth of a man as a man, regardless of birth. Not what was his church or what was his creed, but had he befriended those really in need? Was he ever ready with a word of good cheer, to bring back a smile, to banish a tear? Not what did the sketch in the newspaper say, but how many were truly sorry when he passed away. I think that poem certainly reflects the life of Garry Pyke. We're going to conclude the service in just a moment with just a very brief prayer of benediction. Because we're not going to a cemetery today, we'll include some words of committal and then conclude with the Lord's Prayer. Just a reminder to those that are watching, there will be a celebration of life at a date further down the road. And so we pray to conclude the service. Our God and Father, we ask that your presence today would give us comfort and peace. May your blessings rest on all of Garry's family members and his friends. We thank you for the life of this man. When the world we live in is characterized by greed and hatred and selfishness, we thank you for a man like Garry who loved his family, loved other people, and did what he could to make the world a better place for himself and others. We believe his memory and legacy will live on in the lives of those who loved him the most. We commit his body to the ground, his soul and spirit into your care. In faith and hope that you always do what is good, we now release Garry from our care to yours, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. May he forever rest in peace. And we pray in the name of the one who taught us to pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So family members, again, thank you for the privilege of being able to share in this service with you. I just want to express personally my deep condolences and sympathies to you all, and all the best as you move forward. You're certainly free to move about in the room. If you want to come forward and even just pay your final respects to Garry, you're more than welcome to do that. And again, as mentioned, there will be a celebration of life at a later date. Thank you.
And the new day will dawn.
Make sure